Hiya. Is that Jon Macks?
I take it you're not an imposter. I take it's you.
It is. It's Dom Stevens, if that's who you were looking for.
That's exactly who's making my day.
Perfect. Can you see me okay?
And I just put myself on there.
Oh, there we go. Wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today. This is a huge help.
That's a little premature. Let's wait until I'm done before we find out.
Okay, I'll reserve judgment. So, first of all, how were the Oscars?
The Oscars were fun. It's my 21st year doing it, and you write for the host some years. Some years I've been the head writer for the show. This year was just the show. Jimmy Kimmel had his own writers.
Mm-hmm.
It was good. It was very good. Ratings were not what I had hoped, but still, when you get 30 million people watching here in the States and God knows how many around the world, I don't know the answer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if God knows either, but it was good. And the producers are fantastic. Kimmel was great, and Jennifer Todd and Mike DeLuca are just great producers.
Fantastic. Well, of course, hosted by Jimmy Kimmel. His own show has seen a recent and quite dramatic increase in the political content, particularly in regards to healthcare. How is late night now in terms of the political humour, in terms of arguably the partisan humour, compared to when you were writing for Jay Leno's Tonight Show?
Well, if you go back originally, when Johnny Carson was the host of the Tonight Show for 30 years, from 1962 to 1992. Johnny's humor was not political. Yeah, he did a few jokes here and there about Richard Nixon and things like that, but it wasn't, to be honest, part of that was also fun. Johnny's values were more just Midwest, middle of the road, and you didn't have the news sources then. You had three, you had ABC, CBS, and NBC.
Mm-hmm.
That was Jay coming on in 1992 coincided with 24-hour cable. So you had two things. You had Jay's philosophy, which was very Will Rogers-ish, which is, basically the emperor has no clothes. Whoever the emperor is has no clothes whatsoever. The second thing was that you had a constant barrage of stories. So it wasn't like you had to spend all day looking through the newspaper. Oh, there's a thing on page B24. You had nonstop news, and then the internet, after Al Gore allegedly invented it, meant you had, stuff coming in your laptop, you had your TV on, you had your newspapers. So it enabled you to do it. So Jay basically was, he hit both parties. I think somebody did a count once. There was something like 13,000 jokes about Democrats and 9,000 about Republicans. And it's a rough estimate.
Mm-hmm.
And people say, well, does that mean he's more Republican doing jokes about Democrat? No, it means that Democrats had the presidency for 13 of his 22 years. And that, by the way, you can hear my dogs barking. Someone's either breaking in to kill me or going to put solar on my roof. I can't tell.
Or the same person.
That's right, probably. It hopefully puts the solar on first.
Yeah.
That way they can cremate me slowly, and very environmentally sound.
Absolutely.
So Jay just hit that. And also you had Bill Clinton, who I vaguely remember might have had a sex scandal. And
I've heard tell of that.
And Jay's theory was interesting. We all know someone who's cheated on their wife.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not you, but everyone else does. Knows someone. But take an example compared to the Iran-Contra hearings. Not everyone knows someone who has traded arms for hostages with Nicaraguans and Iran. But we all know somebody whose pants are down around their ankles.
Mm-hmm.
So, given that, you could make jokes about Clinton, and Jay did that. Now it's much more partisan. You rarely see jokes, even when Democrats flail about, which I'm a Democrat, which we often as a party do. It's not that they're being protective. I think some of the hosts may be protective of Democrats. I truly do believe that. And I think others just are, you're so overwhelmed by the clownishness, is that a word?
I believe so.
Of the president currently, that it's there. Now, some people have said to me, well, it must be so easy to make jokes about Donald Trump. It is in one sense, but you got to be wary of being Johnny One Note. And I think that all the hosts are doing a really good job of it. My only thing is, if I were still writing late night, I would, with some of them, I would tone down the passion and be a more clinical delivery of the joke. I think the joke then works stronger that way. And you see people do that. I mean, again, when Jimmy Kimmel's passionate was, my God, his son had that, had that heart condition. And I can see, and in gun control, I can see why Jimmy gets passionate about that. That's needed. But then, and I'm putting him aside for a second, I like it when a Seth Meyers clinically delivers a great, strong joke.
Mm.
That was a long description, but
no, it was a brilliant description.
Did you see brilliant?
I did. It was.
Now, was that the English brilliant, which is the punctuation? Like, hey, let's go get coffee. Brilliant. And then it took me years with Ricky Gervais, who's a friend of my brother. He wasn't saying I was brilliant. He was punctuating the sentence. Or was that the actual brilliant as a descriptive? I need to know.
That was brilliant as in a synonym of amazing, fantastic, superb.
Now I feel better, and it wasn't the punctuation. Continue.
No, not at all. It was excellent in its truest form. So if you were going to draw a timeline of how late night has become more political, more partisan over time, what would be the key markers you'd put on that? What watershed moments?
1958 or 59, this is probably before you were born,
Slightly.
When a late night host named Jack Parr, who was the late night host at the time, had both Senator John F. Kennedy and I believe Senator Richard Nixon and Fidel Castro on at different times as guests. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't jokes about them. They were actually in-depth interviews that you would never see now. Parr was incredibly inquisitive. Then you had Johnny Carson, not necessarily a watershed for political humor, but when Johnny did make jokes about something, much like they always said, you knew that the Vietnam War was turning bad when Walter Cronkite in the news raised his eyebrows.
Yeah.
In that, when Johnny would do a joke or two about Vietnam, what was going on, or about the president, that was alerting the country. It's like, oh my God, here's a guy who's basically doing jokes about a man in Belgium who fell in love with a horse. And all of a sudden now he's, which actually happened. The horse kept saying, nay. By the way, remind me later about a man in Belgium jokes. But, well, goodbye. A man in Belgium, back then when there wasn't many things, the Carson writers, when they were out of jokes, they would just make up a story. A man in Belgium, because there's no way of checking.
Really?
Well, thanks to the internet, we now know stories about men in Belgium.
Yes.
You actually know the odd stories. So Johnny, not so much, honestly put. Probably the big moment for that was when politicians started to come on. So Bill Clinton in 1988 Bill Clinton, governor of Arkansas, gave the nominating speech for Michael Dukakis at the keynote address, rather, at the 88 convention. And it went on and on and on, 46, 47 minutes. And he finally said, in conclusion, and the place burst into applause. And he realized that he perhaps derailed his dreams of being president one day forever. And he went on the Tonight Show. His friends, the Thomasons, talked to Fred DeCordova, who was Johnny's producer. They got Clinton on. He came on. He made fun of it. And back then it was reported, he's resurrected his career. So that was a moment. Other key moments in late night, when Clinton, again, in 1992, he was in third place in May of 92. And he went on Arsenio Hall's show. And he came on with sunglasses and played the saxophone. And it sent a signal to everyone, this is not the World War II generation of candidates. Not that that's a bad thing, but that this is a new generation of candidates. I mean, George H.W. Bush, very fine president, in retrospect, really good compared to what we have now, was a World War II veteran. He was a hero, but he was a different generation. And then with our show, with Jay, for 22 years, we had politicians on as regular guests. Arnold Schwarzenegger announced for governor on our show in August of 2003. John Kerry rode a motorcycle on our stage. Barack Obama became the first sitting president to come on our. So in addition to the jokes, which were much more political, Jay also told 30 jokes a night. So when 8 or 10 were about politics, it was like, okay, but he hit both. But when candidates came on, that's when, thanks to Jay, candidates started to realize you could use this as a forum. It showed them in a much more real way. When you see a candidate, and I'm going to cut this long story short, when you saw a candidate on Meet the Press or whatever, it's kind of scripted. It's not scripted, but we know that Tim Russert was going to ask A, B, C, D, and E, and we know the candidate's going to give an answer. When you come on a talk show like that, you're seeing them real. When John Edwards came on, people could see what a phony he was. When Bill Clinton came on Arsenio and played the sax, you could say, this guy's kind of hip. When Barack Obama came on, you say, oh, I get it. This guy is incredibly amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's when Fred Thompson came on our show, he's a senator from Tennessee running for president, you realize he's too sleepy and tired to make it through the show. I mean, literally, it's like, and I think in a way, it can really help a candidate, or it can really give them what I call the comma after the name.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when I tell you Bill Clinton, comma, you don't think, sadly for him, you don't think great economy, peace. What you think is affair.
Mm-hmm.
When you think of Donald Trump, comma, you think of the word asshat. Think of everyone gets a comma, and it can be a good comma or a bad comma, and Late Night helps give you that comma.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, you were a political consultant for many years before
Yes.
Jay hired you onto The Tonight Show. I'm tempted to make the argument that your hiring to become one of the most prolific comedy writers from a political background was a key moment in itself in terms of shifting late night. Do you agree with that at all?
It's awfully hard to say that about myself.
Mm-hmm.
I would let my agent and manager and wife and children say that.
Okay.
Although, and again, right or wrong, and again, this is not fake modesty, because I have no modesty or fakeness. Newsday in 2004 named 20 people who were the most influential people on TV having an impact in the election. And it was like, Tim Russert, and it was Rush Limbaugh, and it was me. And I was like number 5 or 6. And it was clearly an arbitrary listing. And I think they threw me into, they probably needed a name. But it's kind of interesting that got on there. I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying, though, that I would like to think that I played a small part in helping shape the political monologues for Jay. But again, I was one of 16 or 18 writers, all of whom were amazing. So.
Well, having read a lot about you, I can definitely agree with Newsday there. Newsday or Newsweek?
Newsday.
Newsday.
Yeah, Newsday, which is, a newspaper. Newsweek, I didn't quite, although I was the centerfold in this Newsweek swimsuit issue on here. But.
Weirdly, that didn't come up in my research, but I will be looking that up.
Actually, at some point, there is research that I was an underwear model in college.
I saw that. That's on your IMDb. Is
that
true?
Yeah, actually weirdly. And I know there are no pictures. I think the Sears catalog burned them all.
Okay. So there is truth to that one, or is that a?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a sad truth.
Okay. Well, that's veered into a direction I wasn't expecting. I saw a Meet the Press you did in 2015 with Chuck Todd, where you said you were excited about, as a Democrat, that Hillary could become president, and as a comedy writer, you were ecstatic that she could become president. Do you think we would have seen a similar uptick in political humour in late night had she won over Trump?
It would have been much more. I think you would not have seen necessarily the passion that you see now among some of the greats.
Mm-hmm.
The great. By the way, if it gets noisy, they actually are putting solar panels on my house, so I will move inside if we need to.
Okay.
I don't think you would have seen a different tone. It would have been more Leno-esque. It would have been. You would have been, because in the end, you would have had. You would have had. To be honest, you would have had Bill back in the White House.
Mm.
And that in and of itself, much as I love him, admire him for many things, he does always at some point tend to make a mistake. And I'm not saying this about his personal life, but he would say things, I'm sure. as he did in the campaign, that would get him in a little bit of hot water.
Mm-hmm.
I think you would have seen, you would have seen, I think, a few less jokes, a little more balance,
Mm-hmm.
and you also would have seen the overreaction of the Republicans to Hillary being president, which would have been fodder. You would have seen Ted Cruz needing a rabies shot, every day to keep from just frothing at the mouth over the fact that Hillary was president. So I think you would have had a much broader and to me interesting approach to looking at it.
Mm. Well, in your book monologue, which is excellent by the way, loved that. And
available at your better bookstores and online. I'm sorry, did that slip?
Well, I have a copy of it here for all plugging purposes.
Oh yeah, you got the paperback version.
I got the latest version. I wanted to see what extra stuff you put in there.
By the way, it's a whole other story about how they say, okay, we're putting out a paperback version. We want to say it's all new. Write another 8 words.
So it's
okay,
just a sentence at the end. Yes. Well, in it you mentioned about numbers in terms of jokes told by Leno from the CMPA, and of course Bill Clinton came out on top with about 4,500 jokes. George Bush is second with about 3,000, and then surprisingly it's Al Gore with I think 1,026, and then Obama with 1,011. Why were there so few jokes made about Obama compared with other presidents?
A couple things. First of all, you have to understand that Clinton had 8 years in office,
mm-hmm.
and then you always had whatever he was doing after the fact. So it's still a continuing through line. Al Gore had 8 years in office, then ran for president, and then went off. He continued to do things.
Mm-hmm.
President Bush, second George W. Bush, again, he was in office for 8 years, but then he kind of faded from the scene. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, he did what many ex-presidents do, where Bill Clinton continued to be generating news and stories. Obama was only there, honestly, for from 2000. Well, he became a candidate in 2007 through 2014 for Jay. So there was a shorter window,
mm-hmm.
so fewer jokes. And also, he was boring in a good way for his marriage,
mm-hmm.
and a bad way for joke telling.
Mm.
I mean, he had a great marriage. He didn't cheat on his wife. He didn't. I mean, Bill Clinton, early on it was he eats 52, cheeseburgers a day, and then he had his problems with his intern and whatever. Where Barack Obama was just policy and president, so it was a little bit different. Sure, he had a few things where he goofed up, but in the end, when you don't want to see the banana peel, you want to see somebody step on it and slip.
Yeah.
And Obama, you never even saw. He avoided the manhole cover. He never walked down the street in the middle and fell in the manhole. You never saw the manhole cover.
Mm-hmm.
With Clinton, you saw the manhole cover. You saw him fall in. You saw him climb out, emerge, fall back in again, come back in and out. Over that, so that I think would be the number of the difference. Just a side note: in 10 minutes, I have a call that will make me money, but I'm happy to jump back on. I have to take because it's making me money, and you're
sure.
not. But I'm happy to jump back on after that, but I have to take it.
Oh, that's absolutely fine. Yes, just let me know when, and then jump.
Or we can do part 2. Honestly, virtually any time we can just reschedule. And I hate to do that to you, but this came up and they said, we're going to throw money at you. And I said, well, screw Dom.
I will quote you as that on my LinkedIn. No, that's absolutely fine. Just let me know whenever works best. Moving on to Jimmy Fallon, infamously tussling Donald Trump's hair in 2015, caused apoplectic outrage. But when Dick Cheney came on Leno in 2011 dressed as Darth Vader, making fun of himself being a villain, there didn't seem to be that much of an outrage in that way. Why do you think that is?
First of all, I don't think there should have been outrage over Jimmy. I think that was we are so much more tribally divided now as a nation. Whereas everyone, Dick Cheney, I guess it was a 2-part thing. The first was that although Democrats really didn't like Dick Cheney and didn't like his policies, no one could argue with his basic competency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't want him as vice president. I thought he was a horrible vice president. I think he misled us, the nation, in so many things. But he competently misled us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does, yeah.
Other than the lies. We were so much more tribal when it came to Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And, if a friend of mine said she liked Dick Cheney, I didn't stop talking to her.
Mm-hmm.
When now in this nation, when people say that if somebody said they voted for Trump, you write them out of your will. And it's, so I think that had something to do with it. That came on. Jimmy tussling the hair didn't validate Donald Trump. It didn't, it didn't change one vote.
Mm-hmm.
If Jimmy were Russian, it might have changed the vote. But, but it didn't change one vote. But I think it was like, how can he possibly be nice to somebody like that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, it didn't bother me. I don't think Jimmy did anything wrong. I think it just comes back to that intense bitterness out there.
I think that's very true. So where do you see late night going over the next few years? What do you expect to see?
Well, first of all, we have some exciting new people coming on. Mm-hmm. I've been the one crying out, crying out. I mentioned it in my book on page whatever. Please, everyone, buy it and read it. Mm-hmm. That I would love to see a female late night host really dominate. Now, Samantha Bee does really good work, but I'm hoping for someone. I really wish there'd be a female late night host who would take not just political, but be in the Leno style. And Michelle Wolf, who's a great new comic. Caveat or warning, she's a friend of mine. Mm-hmm. She's fantastic. She's doing, I think, a 10-part talk show on Netflix coming up. Yes. She's also in the White House Correspondents' Dinner. She's fantastic. I think that if I make a prediction, that there will be a woman like a Michelle Wolf who takes over the mantle of a Jay Leno and does a bigger, broader style comedy. Politics in it, of course. But I think that. At the same time, when Johnny Carson did his show, 12 million people watched tonight. It was it. And when Jay did his show, 4 or 5 million people watched it. Now, for the Jimmys and everyone else, they get 3 million people. Again, they go viral. They have this and that. But the audience is so diffuse that you have so many choices. I don't think we'll ever go back to where there was Jay versus Dave. Mm-hmm. You were Jewish or Catholic.
Yeah.
You didn't have 72 religions to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we'll ever go back to the two-parter. I think, though, you're going to see some great new voices coming in, like Michelle.
I saw the Post recently, and Meryl Streep's character closes it with a line saying that journalists write the first draft of history. Is it too far-fetched to say that...
No.
Okay.
No. Okay, say you're saying that, so that way you'll have it on the record.
Okay, is it too far-fetched to say that late-night monologue jokes are the first draft of the Trump presidency?
I don't know to what extent, but a friend of mine, Wayne Klein, who is a great writer, Wayne has written for Jay, wrote for Leno, has been around for 100 years. They asked Wayne once, what is it that he did for a living? He said, I rewrite the news. And as a comedy writer, the one thing to remember about jokes and late night jokes is the premise is true. Mm-hmm. The fact is true, which is why people say especially with Jon Stewart, who I love, they would say they got the news from Jon Stewart in late night. It's because they got the facts. In today's environment, I don't know if that's more true or less true, but I think that the shaping of the opinion of the Trump presidency is being done by all media. And whether it's MSNBC or Fox News on the other side, or CNN, which purports to be in the middle, I think that that's giving a take. But I think that people still I think more if Jay were on the air, I think people, or Dave, I think people would still be looking to them for, okay, what's the real take?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to now where, look, if you're watching late night, you're going to get a anti-Trump view. Not that Jay or Dave would, in any God sense of the word, if they were on today, give a pro-Trump view. But I think there might be a little less, well, maybe not with Dave, but with Jay certainly a little less of the pointedness and a little more of the let's laugh at this guy. And that's, I think, the difference. You know, it's a Mark Twain quote. You could look it up, and I'm going to misstate it about that. Nothing can withstand the assault of humor. And I want to see a little more joke and laughing at Trump than anger. I think that's how, if you really want to see him brought down.
Mm-hmm.
I think that his relationship with the legendary actress Stormy Daniels and the ability to laugh at it may prove to be more of an undoing to him than collusion with the Russians.
Yes, I think you're right.
The average person out there, collusion. What's collusion mean? Russians? What? Secret meetings? Oh, he has pants around his ankles. There you go. He paid $130,000 for her to shut her mouth. Well, she opened her mouth first. Sorry. I think that may be. There's a bad prediction that if it comes true, you'll say I'm a genius.
Yeah.
That Stormy Daniels has a much bigger chance of bringing him down. His wife slapping his hand one day is hysterical. That to me says a lot more about the guy than the fact that he won't release it. I know why he won't release his taxes, because he's you have to be an idiot not to know why. But that to me is like when she slaps the hand away. You go, I get that. My wife treats me that way sometimes. Different reasons. I have never paid Stormy Daniels $130,000. Now here's the thing. I got to run.
Sure. But
when do you want to do this? We could do this either. And what time are you there? I don't want to be too late. What time are you?
It's 5:30 in the afternoon, so I've got all evening. We can do it again later today.
We could do it at 11 a.m. my time, which is in an hour and a half.
Sure. So that would be 7 p.m. my time, because it's 8 hours. That would work.
No questions. In 1.5 hours, call me back.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, and see you in part 2.
Now figure out how to get rid of you. Oh, God. Snoop. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. How are you?
I'm good. Is this a bad visual background? I've switched because the sun.
No, that seems fine. Are you on your front porch then?
I'm actually just looking. It's actually a back porch. It's kind of a side porch.
Okay.
I'm not sure what it is. Here, you can look out. There you go.
Oh, that's an amazing view.
There you go.
I've just got a Ford, what's it called? A Hyundai i10 out my window. So it's a lot better than that.
There you go. Okay, sorry about the delay, but I had to throw you over for money. So.
That's entirely understandable. Was it a good call?
Yeah, it was long. It was because there's 5 people, so everyone has to have their say.
I see.
Yeah, and I'm the only one whose opinion counts. And
naturally. But you have to let them think they have their say.
Well, exactly. It's what I call fake empowerment.
Yes, it's a classic political move.
Exactly.
Okay, well let's. Do you have another call after this? How long do we have?
Well, I'm good until 1 o'clock. I'm good for about another hour. So.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Okay, well let's talk about Jon Stewart for a bit then, because I'm a huge fan. My dream job would be to be a correspondent on the Daily Show. So that you seem like you're a fan too. How influential was he on making late night political?
Incredibly. What he did is he took late night and made it politically relevant for a younger generation. Whereas Jay and Dave, you could argue, took it to a new level for those 40 and up. And the average age of probably the viewers for Jay was 50, and for Dave about the same. Mm-hmm. John connected it with I don't want to call it a millennial generation because I don't know, whatever. But let's call it for those who were, 35 and under,
mm-hmm.
and in a way that they had not experienced before. And I don't think that they necessarily would be viewers of Dave and Jay. I suspect that the sets did not intersect.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, he literally took it to a new audience in a way that connected with them, and it's how they got their news. His viewers, I suspect, did not watch. I'm trying to think of whoever the example would be. Brian Williams on NBC Nightly News.
Mm-hmm.
They just watched John and got it from there. So, that would be the generation that now the half generation removed gets everything on their phone.
Yeah.
They watch. They don't sit and watch you guys. I suspect with Stewart, they watched on TV,
mm-hmm.
on a television. I think now with this new generation, everybody is walking around aimlessly like that. By the way, for those who use their phones and face down, phones like this, reading and walking,
mm-hmm.
it's how, or on the street, that's how Darwin calls thinning of the herd. Because they walk into the street and are taken out, and it's no great loss.
That's understandable. The Darwin Awards, very much so.
There you go.
Have you ever written for him? You must have crossed paths at some point, I imagine.
I know John, and I crossed paths with him, and the only time I ever wrote something for him was for a charity event
mm-hmm.
Called the Warrior Games that he does, which is basically it's Olympics for disabled veterans.
Okay.
And that was just last year. But I've known John for 15 years and love him, but never wrote for him. He has his own team and his own view, whatever. So.
Yeah. He seems to be very charitable minded with the Night of Too Many Stars recently, and
yes,
repeatedly.
And I know him because he hosted the Oscars in 2005 and in 2008. But I was the head writer for the show then, so we were working next to each other, but not together.
So does that mean you write the sort of when you have guest presenters come on in pairs, that kind of thing, as opposed to the monologue?
That's what you're doing. I'm writing everything from the in memoriam package to the, if you saw this past one, to Jodie Foster and Jennifer Lawrence's presentation.
Oh, that was yours.
So that's when you're the show writer, you're writing that. The host writer is completely self-contained. Now, like I said, there have been years when I've been the writer for both, and that is good. But in this case, no, it was completely Jimmy's writers are self-contained, John's work.
Okay. Moving on to Stephen Colbert. This week, after he recorded a segment in Washington making fun of the Devin Nunes memo, Devin Nunes then said that Colbert was a danger to America. What are your thoughts on this?
I think that is that statement by Devin Nunes is probably what he thinks,
mm-hmm.
And that is the saddest thing of all time. I'm glad to see he doesn't think the AR-15s are a danger to America. Last time I checked, Colbert did not kill a bunch of people. I might have missed the story if he did. I think it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
Information, facts, viewpoints are never a danger. Refusal to listen to them, to understand them are. I think Stephen is great in what he brings in a view of looking at things. So I would not. It makes me think of Devin Nunes exactly what I think of Moore writing.
Okay.
How's that?
Yeah, I get what you mean by that. In my,
I would call him an idiot, but that's an insult to idiots out there.
Yeah. No, we're very much in agreement there. Looking in terms of the research of it, sort of pre-Clinton, pre-Leno, there didn't seem to be much made of political candidates, political figures in the same way. For example, when I was speaking to Dukakis, I looked at sort of what jokes had been made by Leto and Letterman, and I really couldn't find any. I found John Lovitz's impression on SNL, but I don't know, in your experience, there was a lot of that, or there wasn't a lot of that?
Well, I mean, again, for Dukakis, he ran for president in '88, and so Dave had a late night show then, but Jay was only guest hosting occasionally for Johnny.
Oh, true. Yes.
So it really wasn't to post that. But in terms of that, it just wasn't there. SNL did things, but SNL did, as they've always done, did their parodies, from Chevy Chase imitating President Ford to Darryl Hammond doing a variety of impressions, to Lovitz doing Dukakis. But it was really more like Chevy Chase was his interpretation of Gerald Ford was Ford falling down, and in one sense it gave Ford a comma, but it wasn't an in-depth look that you would see later on, even from Dana Carvey doing President George H.W. Bush, which was, with each passing year, the interpretation has been more in-depth. To me, the high point was still Tina Fey, Sarah Palin. I don't think you can get better than that. And, I've made the point before that Sarah Palin never said, "I can see Russia from my house." Tina Fey, from my front porch. Sarah had some, again, it wasn't the brightest thing ever, but she basically said, there's a place that is part of Alaska, Little Diomede Island, or Big Diomede Island, whatever the hell it is, where you can see, on a clear day, you can see a Russian island 55 miles away or something like that. Well, it's factually true. But what we remember is, and I can see Russia from my front porch.
Yeah.
That is brilliant.
And it's the same with Gerald Ford. Following that, I saw Hot Shots Part 2 the other day with Charlie Sheen and all that, and it's there's a visual gag of all the presidents fall down in a domino effect, but Gerald Ford falls down on his own accord, and it's a throwback to that. And he's just now become known as.
Here's a guy, by the way, who was an All-American football player at the University of Michigan, and was probably the best athlete we've ever had as president.
Including Donald Trump.
And there you go. I mean, I don't think that Donald Trump is a good athlete. Although Stormy Daniels might disagree.
Yes, very true. Do you remember the first joke you sold, or the first sketch you sold?
Yeah, first joke, it was horrible. It was really, well, I mean, what had happened was I had just for fun been writing some jokes for a radio disc jockey, and I can't remember any of those. But the first joke that Jay did of mine was he was hosting on Tuesday nights. He was guest hosting for Johnny. I believe he had just been named that he was going to take over for Carson the next May. And I started sending jokes, and the first one was, trying to get the wording, it was July 10th or 11th of 91. And the joke was, there was a solar eclipse. And the joke is so stupid. The joke was, there's a solar eclipse today, and it throws everything off. The birds stop chirping, the cows go to sleep, and the hookers come out on Times Square. It's a stupid joke, and I heard it. I was watching that night, and I heard it in there to my wife. I said, I think that might have been my joke. And she goes, what was it? I said, I was a little stunned, and then a few days later, I got a check for $50. And then Jay started using more and more jokes over as I would send them in. And then he guest hosted for a week in October, and for a whole week, and I sent him jokes every day. And he said a bonus check. And then a couple months later is when he called me up and said, hey, you want a job on the Tonight Show? I'll give you 13 weeks. Okay. So that was that.
Is that something that you always, because I've seen you say in past interviews before that you had this good stable job in Washington, D.C., and then you were offered a 13-week contract on the other side of the country.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, I was either at the top of the bottom of the A-list consultants or the top of the B-list. I prefer to think the bottom of the A-list. And, a very successful firm, was an associate for a while, and was a very successful firm then later, and one of the top 3 in the Democratic politics. And, when Jay called me and offered the job, he said, I said, look, I got contracts through November 92. This is whenever I get a big year. And he said, well, you could do both. You get a good work ethic. So I would faxing jokes every day. I went out for a week at a time. I'd come back. I went out for 2 weeks. I'd come back. I'd fly all over. I was doing jokes. And then I moved out in the day before the Clinton election. So it was whatever, November 1st, 92.
Mm-hmm.
The day we got there, my wife and I all got there with our kids, and we moved out because I was going to, I told my partners I'm done. This is now in the second or third 13 weeks. So I felt a little more comfortable. And the headline of Variety was NBC to replace Leno with Letterman. And that was real great, but of course they were considering it, and after a while they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a big move. But I had 3 kids and wanted to spend a little time with them, ingrates as they are now. But
like I said a bit before, my dream would be to write for a late night talk show like that. So I've only sold 3 jokes in my life so far, so I'm a little behind you. But would you mind humouring me in if I tell you a couple of jokes that I've written and to get your reaction from it, from your grand standpoint? Probably awful delivery now I've set this up, but here we go. I'm a screenwriter. My latest film is a rom-com set around a blood transfusion. It's called He's Not My Type. Its sequel is about diabetes. It's called He's Not My Type 2.
Good. First of all, I love wordplay. So
good.
That's a good, solid joke. It's not a joke that you would do in a topical monologue. It's a joke you would do in a stand-up. And you're doing it when you're talking about your life as a screenwriter. That is like a 10-minute segment, and that would be an interesting joke for about a third of the way in.
Oh, fantastic.
Good.
Thank you. What was some advice that you got either at the Tonight Show or something similar that stuck with you? Like a good mantra or a good motto?
Stay off the crack pipe. The best advice I ever got was from a writer named Bob Smith. Bob had written for Johnny Carson for years, and was the one writer that actually made the transition to Jay. He stayed like 26 weeks or a year before he went off and did a sitcom. But there's 2 jokes, 2 pieces of advice, which is it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Okay.
When you're writing for late night, it is a machine that eats up material. So, and you can't rely on, oh my God, that joke didn't work that night. Oh my God, what am I going to do? You got to show the next night. Or, oh my God, I scored big. I had 5 jokes on I got last. It doesn't matter. You got to churn it out. So you just got to remember, just keep going. And that's why I went with volume. I mean, I wrote 100 jokes a day for 4,610 shows. And that's not counting what I did in bits. So it was about 500,000 jokes. And I think I got 18,000 on the air. Somebody did a count. Why, I don't know. I guess they're like the same people that count sperm totals. Nailed sperm count is that. How'd you like to have that job?
It's 1, 2, 3.
700 million and 3. Oh, I lost the count. Honey, why'd you interrupt me? I got to start again. So, but the idea that you just have to keep doing jokes over and over and over, and I'm bouncing my thing in my lap, over and over again. And the second bit of advice was buy one house less than you think you can afford. So you get paid significantly on a show like that. And let's just say, I'm making this up, you're making $10,000 a week. And you go, well, that kind of money, and they say that you should have your mortgage should be 1/4 of your whatever salary, so I can pay a mortgage of $10,000 a month, on this big house. No, because you're in a 13-week deal, or you're 26-week deal. By the end, I was, of course, on a year-to-year, and of course, I stayed there the whole time. But they could cancel the show anytime. I mean, Jay is different because the writers stayed. But you could, a lot of people went through writers like, Stormy Daniels goes through penicillin. And it's, I'm big on Stormy Daniels. I've seen her work, and she's a fantastic actress.
I'm surprised she wasn't nominated this year.
Well, she has handled so many parts, but it's big parts, believe me.
Yeah.
But so that advice, those two bits of advice, it's a marathon, not a sprint, and so I never went. Wow, when there were writers I knew who bought, $4 million houses because that's what they thought their salary could be,
Mm-hmm.
and then shit happens, and then you're stuck with a mortgage and not. So that was the second bit of great advice Bob gave me.
Oh, fantastic. And also, you mentioned about your Jay said how you have an excellent work ethic, and that seems to be the case with just how much you've written for so many shows. Is there something you tell yourself to spur you on in sort of days when you sort of think, oh, I don't know if I have it in me, or oh, I can just sleep in?
I have a needy wife and 3 greedy children.
Okay, that'll do it.
It's a great motive. Now, it's I don't think you can give yourself a work ethic. I mean, it came from my dad, I think, and my mom, who worked incredibly hard their whole lives. And,
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember my dad taking a day sick.
Mm-hmm.
He had a heart attack, and it's like, okay, when can I go back? Jay, I think, in his 22 years, I think he missed 2 shows, maybe, when he was sick.
Wow.
When, and so, to quote Michael Dukakis,
Mm-hmm.
or about Dukakis, I forget, but the fish rots at the head. Well, on the flip side of that is Jay, which is when you're working for somebody who's incredibly nice, incredibly tolerant, equal, fair, which he was, incredibly caring, and works his ass off. You're going to do the same. I mean, I would get to the office at 8 a.m. and Jay would be there. And he'd work late into the night. Well, you kind of follow that. So, and especially when you're doing volume, look, if you're writing a script, or you're writing a book, you're anguishing like this and thinking, but when you're trying to churn out 100 jokes a day, and again, I think I say this in my book, available at better bookstores and even the worst one. If you got 4 on, it was a great day. 3 on, you're okay, I'm feeling okay. 2, yeah, I didn't quite do it. 1, oh shit, I can't write anymore. 0, what the hell happened? And I think I might have had the most on one day of anyone I've been told that. Either 11 or 12 jokes in it, like a 24-joke monologue.
Yeah.
And it was a Monday.
Wow.
And I was pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
And the next 2 days I got none on. That kind of hit the average in a 4 a day, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, but that day I think, I am a pretty good writer. Next day I'm going, well, it was just a fluke. And next day I got done, I said, I've forgotten how to write. I do not know how to do this anymore. And then you just have to say to yourself, no, you know how to write, just go write. And you have one has little tricks to get writing when it's a slow day or a slow news day. It's so hot. How hot is it? Or it's so cold. You have little formula jokes to get going. It's so cold that Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump were hugging for warmth. Or it's so hot that Snoop Dogg put ice in his bong water. I mean, you got, they're not great jokes, but once you start typing, you keep going.
And you play around with the word order, and you sort of go, okay, there's the third one down might be the gem.
And and again, everyone had their different way of going about it. Every morning, I would write down. It's completely arbitrary, no CD. 9 topics of the day, and I would so today, what will my topics be? Well, it would be the fact that there's a giant snowstorm back east, and Stormy Daniels is a topic, and Donald Trump and elephant trophies is a topic, and Hope Hicks being fired maybe, or Gary Cohn leaving the White House is a topic, and it's still the post-Oscars is a topic, and St. Patrick's Day is a topic, and big. So I write down 9 topics, and then I would try to cross-connect them. What do they have in common? So you see a couple times in a conversation, I've thrown in Stormy Daniels. Good. She's my screensaver, and because I think of her.
Yeah.
And so, again, I would tie Stormy Daniels to the Oscars. And so you write stuff like that, and then you go for the individual stories. So I look up a variety of websites to find the man in Belgium stories, to find, this is true, there was a story about a man who had sex with a tree. This is from Washington State. I can't make this up.
Okay.
And so then you think of how stupid that is,
Mm-hmm.
and then he came down with a case of splinters. When she was away, he pined for her. You get all spruced up for a day. I mean, so you get a lot of it, but you get like 8 or 9 jokes just about that one stupid story.
Mm.
And by 3 o'clock in the day, you've got your 100 jokes.
He wouldn't be afraid about getting wood, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly. Yeah, she had a wooden personality. I mean, you just can do stupid pun jokes and word jokes, and you get your jokes, and then you get the deeper ones, and you get your total.
Yeah, he wanted to branch out. That's all I can do.
Exactly. It's exactly. And Jay would never do these jokes, but about once a year in LA, someone would fall into a wood chipper, just like
Fargo.
in a movie. Yeah. Wood chipper, and that would always just my buddy John Kennedy's a writer, writes for Cord now. I would just write a series of jokes about people falling into wood chippers, which they would never do, of course. But it would make us laugh to do jokes about a guy falling in a wood chipper.
Mm-hmm.
Goodbye, Mr. Chips was the movie about it. I know. I mean, it's like so stupid.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's pretty much all the questions. Oh, actually, one question, and I know it's an awful question of the what was so and so like, but you met Steve Martin, and Steve Martin is such a hero of mine that I
write for Steve now.
Oh, well, fantastic. So I'd kick myself if I didn't ask you about him, and so without wanting to phrase it better than what is he like? What is he like?
Well, first of all, he and Marty Short do a double act now, and that's what I've been working on.
Oh, cool.
And I was the head writer for Steve, or a writer on all 3 of his Oscars.
Oh, fantastic.
2001, 2003, and 2010.
Oh, wow.
And, he is probably, and again, I don't get into personalities, but just when you spend 5 minutes with him, your first thought is, I'm not worthy. He is that brilliant. And then after 10 minutes, you come to realize, I'm really not worthy. He's really that much smarter than I am. Eclectic, brilliant, a writer that, if you've read any of his screenplays or read any of his books, just the talent is amazing. And I'm truly intimidated by it. And I have to act to pretend to be just a writer and friends, as opposed to, oh my God, it's Steve Martin. That's how I feel about Steve.
Oh, amazing! And it's fantastic to hear that you wrote for his Oscar ceremonies, because I watched those on repeat and have done for the past sort of 5 or 6 years. I referenced I sort of basically stole one of the jokes about him not enjoying Dude, Where's My Car, but he had read the book, and I made reference to that just last night.
Yeah, that's my 2 favorite moments with Steve were 2003. We all knew that Michael Moore had been winning a variety of awards.
Mm-hmm.
And we were backstage, and we knew that, and Michael Moore did the acceptance for whatever he won for documentary, whatever, and he went off on President Bush. It's an illegal war, President Bush, and he goes off, and we're all sitting back, and it was Dave Barry and myself and Beth Armagida and I think Dave Boone and Bruce Blanche, and we all started. And in the wording and Steve came up with it, which is he came out right afterwards. Then he had just a few seconds. He came up, then he went out and he goes, because there was some booing during the Michael Moore speech because some of the workers in the stage were more Republican and behind it. And so Steve just came out and said, "Isn't this great? The Teamsters are helping Michael Moore to the trunk of his limo." Every word in that joke, the Teamsters, and it wasn't the trunk of his car, the trunk of his limo. It operated on every level, got a huge reaction, and Steve came back and just went, "Wow." And the other was just a joke. Well, again, literally that is the best memory of the Oscar for Steve, because in the moment, ad-lib, fantastic.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for talking to me. It's been an immense, it's a joy to speak to you.
And the check goes to Wild Bronco Productions. So I'll assume it's coming in the next day or 2.
Yes, that's John Macks Interview, right?
Yeah, and because again, I know that the people doing dissertations are fabulously wealthy.
Just making it rain every day. Just
exactly. Just start throwing the hundreds, throwing the Benjamins around. Anyway, it's good talking to you. Feel free to email me if any follow up, and I hope to see you again.
Oh, thank you very much. Likewise. Thank you again.
Yeah, take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.